$291,000, and currently the short stack belongs to Olivier Bousquet with $122,000, and the blinds at 3 and 6K. He is certainly concerned.
Yeah, it's not often you see a $300,000 bubble, but that's what we have for four-handed play today.
Button is on Tony Guglietti. Olivier and Kathy are in the blinds. Jason Mercier will be first to act. Jason has also had a bit of a downward trend in his stack. At one point, was nipping on the chip leader's heels, and no longer the case as he is sitting on $230,000. Tony limping in with ace-deuce suited. Olivier limps as well from the small blind, and we'd act surprised, but this is what we've seen from Tony this entire event, passive play.
Yeah, he's been very passive pre-flop especially, prefers to limp as opposed to raise. Check. We've seen him get a little out of line post-flop or even to raise in some situations where we would expect him to call, but pre-flop, he's a limper. 3 players took the flop. Olivier's sevens are best. Turn is a third heart in the form of an ace. Guglietti now has the best hand. I don't like his check. There's 3 to a flush out and 2 opponents in the pot. I think he should try and get some value by betting.
10.
5 on the end, and Olivier fires 10,000.
Olivier at this point thinks he has the best hand and is betting for value, and he's gonna find out that's not the case.
7.
Yeah, sure enough, Bousquet continues to experience frustration after frustration. And as you've mentioned, Tony, it's not that he's making massive mistakes of any sort. Things just aren't working out.
Yeah, he's still playing very well, but he ends up on the wrong side of so many hands. Of course, he lost that very dramatic hand where he flopped a straight against Kathy's 2 pair that she turned into a full house on the turn, but otherwise, he's just losing small and medium pots, 1 bet at a time or 2 bets at a time, and not making any major mistakes.
Ace-jack suited on the button. He raises to 12,000, and Kathy Laney, his nemesis, calls from the small blind with 6-3 offsuit, and we've seen her use that hand before.
All in.
King-queen suited for Mercier, and he's gonna move all in. Bousquet not going anywhere.
Ace-jack.
Kathy mucks the 6 tray and will leave the 2 pros to cannibalize one another.
Could have just peeled, I guess. It's a pretty big button hand.
He's got a strong hand on the button with ace-jack suited, but it's not that much of a favorite over the king-queen suited of Jason
less
Mercier.
than a 3-2 favorite is Olivier with ace-jack suited against king-queen suited. Tournament life is at stake, and just such an unpredictable turn of events for the one-time overwhelming chip leader.
Oh, man, and there is the board that's all Jason.
Queen 5-9. Mercier now with the best hand, and Olivier needs some help. Deuce of hearts is not gonna cut it. He has 1 pull at an ace. Otherwise, and sure enough, the 7 on the end seals Olivier's fate as the dreaded bubble boy. And Jason Mercier has dispensed of the only other pro in the event.
What a disappointing end for Olivier. He played so well during this tournament, both when he was running hot and when he was running cold, but unfortunately busted out in 4th place, going home empty-handed. Not what I expected.
And those 3 players right there are all in the money, and joining them to celebrate and congratulate Bill Perkins.
You busted my nemesis. From Houston, the chairwoman. That's
And
awesome.
Antonio's too.
Antonio, crush us. Crush it. I'm sorry, you know.
Not exactly the look of celebration there for Olivier Bousquet, however.
Oh, that is the saddest thing I've ever seen at a poker tournament.
At the start of today, Olivier really was the odds-on favorite after having gone wire to wire as the chip leader. Both you and I certainly would have put our money on him finishing in the top 3 at the very least, and instead, he is sent home on the bubble, not the outcome any of us would have predicted.
Oh, Olivier, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I'm shocked. You must be shocked.
I mean, it's not as much of a shock. You know, this happens actually, you know, not too rarely in tournaments where somebody gets a lot of luck early and builds up a stack, and then it's hard to maintain that level of luck. And if you get a little bit unlucky when the blinds go up, you know, it's not that uncommon that people can bust out like that. So, you know, obviously it's not fun to be the bubble, but that's just how it happens. I've had a good year, and I've been really fortunate, so I really can't complain.
You certainly have. Now, Kathy is our chip leader. What do you think about her play?
You know, Kathy was kind of quiet for a while. She didn't have a lot of chips, and then she won some big hands, and then when she had a lot of chips, she started becoming a lot more active. You really got to give her credit. I mean, she's starting to put pressure, play a lot of hands, get involved. And I mean, with you know, the amount of chips that she has, I think she's for sure the favorite to win.
Awesome. Well, it's been so much fun cheering for you. Thank you so much, Olivier. And that is it for us tonight. Now, with Olivier's elimination, all players are in the money. So join us next time as we continue this journey to crown the WPT Alpha 8 St. Kitts champion. For Ali Najad, Olivier Bousquet, Tony Dunst, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. Good night. Tonight, the elite world of high-stakes poker will crown its newest champion. This is WPT Alpha 8. Welcome to the Pavilion Beach Club at Christoph Harbour. I'm Lynn Gilmartin. It is here where we have seen the extraordinary highs and lows of poker play out.
Oh, God.
To make the best hand, and right away, there it is.
Nice.
Sorry.
No, sorry. Nice.
And tonight, one player is guaranteed to take home all the treasure that goes with winning WPT Alpha 8 St. Kitts. As we head into the final stretch, I'm delighted to pass it over to Ali Najad and Tony Dunst in the club at WPT.com Skybox. Hi, guys.
Hi, Lynn. We are definitely excited to be down to our final 3 players. But, Tony, the first thing I want to zero in on is that in this $100,000 buy-in event, we had 11 entrants, 15 total buy-ins, and it's Olivier Bousquet who finished on the bubble.
Yeah, we've been talking about the pro versus amateur dynamic through the tournament, and as it turns out, it's going to be 2 amateurs versus 1 top professional.
Yeah, definitely not what we expected. First among them, Tony Guglietti, hails from Canada, a real estate guy, certainly has had some moments that have caused us to question how much of what's going on the felt he knows, but here he is in the final table, in the money.
Yeah, Tony has been the most passive player at this table, and he has made some costly mistakes, but he's been able to bounce back from those, and I feel like he's learning as he goes, so we'll see if he can acclimate three-handed.
Yeah, and then, of course, we've got Jason Mercier, the pro, a guy who's got tons of live tournament winnings over the course of his career, but he isn't exactly as comfortable as you might expect against these 2.
No, the problem with playing against these amateurs is it's really hard to predict where they're at in any given hand. So Jason so far has adapted a very small ball strategy and trying to prevent any really big risks in situations where he's uncertain.
And the third of our 3 players in the money, Kathy Laney, who hails from Houston, Texas. Her company, Suncoast Resources, the largest female-owned business in Texas, and that's saying something. First ever female to buy in to the Alpha 8. In the outset, we said amateur, we said recreational player, but as you and I have both noticed, that doesn't seem to be a moniker that's befitting her talent level.
Yeah, we might have to revise that description with Kathy because she's been very creative during the course of this tournament. Everyone perceives her as a tight player, and yet she's gotten away with 3 bluffs that have outmaneuvered the pros at the table.
She's on 2 buy-ins, $200,000 invested, and let's get a look at the chip counts. 878,000 in chips for Kathy Laney. Jason Mercier and Tony Guglietti a distant second and third. What's it going to take for them to be able to dethrone Laney here?
Well, they're going to have to get lucky a little bit, or at least not get unlucky in order to get knocked out in a crucial pot against Kathy, since she covers them by such a vast amount. I think that Jason will probably be a little bit risk-averse and try and pick up small pots off his less experienced opponents. I'm not sure how Tony will approach this. He seems to be mostly enjoying himself and trying to learn as he goes, like we said before. She's going to start off by raising ace-9 here in the small blind against Jason. I know she wants to avoid these type of conflicts, but she should still be raising a hand this strong.
And indeed, she's done that, making it 20,000 to go. Mercier defends with pocket deuces, and we'll see our first flop of the day. Queen, tray 4, all clubs. Neither player connecting with the board in any meaningful manner.
It's a pretty bad board for Kathy's hand. I expect her to check and then fold to a bet from Jason, and I like that that's her strategy. I think she'd be wasting chips by betting, and that Jason would find a way to take this pot away from her in many instances.
Mercier firing 23,000, and he'll be glad to see Laney's hand hit the muck as he picks up a small pot to kick things off. Button slides over to Kathy Laney. Now, Kathy is an unfamiliar face to us. She is the first ever female participant in the Alpha 8, a friend of Bill Perkins and a regular in Perkins' high-stakes cash game out in Houston, Texas. demonstrated incredible poise in this event despite the amount of money that we're playing for. And again, we see her raising. This time she's improved from ace-9 to ace-jack offsuit. 7-8 suited for Jason Mercier, who calls an extra 16,000. And with pocket fours, Guglietti going nowhere. Three-way family pot heading to the flop. And that flop is queen, 5 deuce, 2 spades. He checks it. Tony checks it, as does Kathy. Trey of clubs hits the turn.
Another good card for Tony's hand. I'd like to see him bet here. He's likely in front against 2 holdings after everyone checks the flop. Plus, he's got equity to draw out on them. But unfortunately, he does check this turn.
Yeah, and Laney showing discipline. Checks with the ace-jack high. She had a wheel draw. There's the 6 on the end, giving Guglietti a straight, but it's Jason Mercier who's going to try to take this pot, firing 32,000. And a quick all-in from Tony for 255.
Yeah, you see there that Tony's only really comfortable raising when he's certain his hand is best, and that's going to get him in some trouble against a professional like Jason.
Yeah, easily perceived pattern there. Both Kathy and Jason lay down, and Tony takes a decent-sized pot.
Yeah, I like the instant fold from Jason. No posturing there. I like what I see from his approach against these 2 opponents.
His 12.8 million in live tournament earnings are not an accident. He's very comfortable in this situation, but he'd be even more comfortable if he could take some of Kathy's chips.
Well, he's in the right seat to relieve some of them from her.
Kathy's got ace-jack offsuit, makes it 20,000 to go.
Jason making the call with 10-8 of diamonds. Nobody really connects on 3-3-6. And Kathy just gonna bet here, likely confident she has the best hand. And I'm not expecting Jason to get that creative with either Kathy or Tony post-flop, although for a moment there, he might be thinking he was gonna call, but that would have been real surprising.
Thought he might float there, but instead lays it down. And the bad start sort of continuing here for Jason Mercier, as we see he has flip-flopped with Tony Guglietti down into 3rd in chips with just 274,000.
He is doing a good job of minimizing the damage, though. He hasn't had the best hand often, but he's not putting in chips unnecessarily.
Button on Kathy. She peeks down at 3-5 suited. Now, would you rather she play aggressively in that spot with Tony in the big blind and her having the button?
Well, I would be raising in her position with 5-3 suited.